to thank everybody for choosing in my shoes. And it's going to be a very exciting show. I have two wonderful guests that I've met in my travels. And our topic today is reentry and the difficulties with the population and our society, how confusing everything is. And first, I'd like to introduce Mr. Joe Smith. He's the CEO of STRUGG. Joe Smith.
Thank you.
And Miss Wanda Fordan. She's the CEO of New Vision. And I'm going to let them tell you about themselves because they have some interesting things that I don't want to miss any part of. So take it away, Joe.
Thank you, Hilda. I'll tell you a little bit about Joe Smith first. The organization is STRUGG. I'll spell that. That's S as in Sam, T as in Tom, R, U, double G as in George, CON, STRUGG, and it simply stands for Struggle Continues. And our mission at STRUGG is to assist and facilitate individuals in their reintegration with society. If you notice, I did not say exactly people returning from prisoners, but just individuals, because we do twofold, which is we do help people who are returning from prison and other forms of incarceration, but we also have a particular focus on keeping our young people from prison. And right now, in 2010, when we formulated, it was, at least to me, a pretty new concept. But now I'm hearing other people catch on board, talking about the preventive methods when it comes to imprisonment. And I will say a little bit about me as Joe, because like a fish out of water, me and reentry. like many people, I was unaware of what this whole prison industrial complex. Totally unaware. Not that I did not care, I just didn't know about it. Matter of fact, I thought that if someone ended up in prison, they had broken some laws, or did something that was wrong, and that's on them. I thought it was a choice, and there is a choice element, but I did not realize how serious this stuff was. It really is a business. Until I'd left New York City and I went upstate New York, a small town called Ellenville. And while in Ellenville, a very rural town, I never realized, I kept seeing these vans, like I knew they were government vans. Right? And they would go by the house all of the time. I said, maybe it's the CIA. Maybe they're after me or something. They had tinted windows, and but I knew it was an official van. And I later found out that those were part of the correctional facilities. And I realized that within a square mile of my home, that there was at least 3 major prisons, all in one town, one small town. And it was mind-blowing to realize that the whole economy of that town and much of upstate New York is prisons. Take away the prisons, you don't have towns. And it kind of, helped me to understand or begin to see something, maybe there's more than all these kids down in Brooklyn and Bronx and Queens and Manhattan just messing up. Maybe there is a bigger thing at play. And at STRUGG, a name that I will mention is Tanya Williams. She was unable to be with us today, but she was very instrumental in helping me understand. Joe, she says, you're bright, brother, but your light's not on or something. She helped me see what was really happening. And at that point, collaborating with Tanya, we kind of like formulated, throwing ideas around, no, we need to do something. And that's how STRUGG came into being, with a focus on reentry, but also on the prevention aspect. And let me know when to stop, right? Because I can go on, obviously.
I know that you can. We met at a reentry consortium meeting.
Yeah.
and he was discussing. You were discussing what you do, and then I started telling you, well, what I do or what I would like to do. And what I used to carry portfolios of who I was, and here's my story. You read it, because you have radio show
Yeah.
called The Struggle Continues.
Right.
And I was going, ooh,
Wow.
here, read this. And then I was on your show, I was a guest on your show,
Yeah.
and that was enlightening as well, though. That was a whole different aspect of just being on the radio.
Right.
And talking about my passion, which is a different approach.
Right.
And that was how we met, and how we began to see that we all have like minds.
Yeah.
We all have like minds, and we're all trying to do so much, and our plan is to now really do a collaboration. If you have the expertise with reentry, you have the expertise with prevention, and you want to have the housing expertise, then I don't have to do the housing.
Right.
I don't have to do that. So we don't have to keep remaking the wheel, because it tends that we get so burnt out
Yeah.
Correct.
because we're trying so hard to do so many things. So I have to keep telling myself to take a step back, Hilda. Because you really want to do the recreation part. Take a step back and focus on what you want to do and what you do best. And because I do the job orders too. I can find hundreds of jobs daily. But if I'm trying to do your piece and I'm trying to do the housing piece, it's kind of like
Something
diluting.
that's gonna not get done because you're not focused on that one. You're trying to do so many things, and there's not just enough hours in the day for you to get everything done.
That's
And I
basic.
think what it is, we all have a passion, and I think that's the key. It's not just a job for us. It's something that we have a passion. We want to help. We want to be able to make a difference in people's lives. And all the money in the world cannot pay us for what it is we really want to, we're doing. I mean, they could give us $1 million. We want to open programs to help people. And I think that's the key, and that's one of the problems in this society and helping the reentry or homeless individuals. The people that's doing the job, the case managers and the social workers, are not passionate about it. It's just a paycheck to them. It's just a paycheck to them.
So you want to tell us about New Vision?
Okay, New Vision started because I'm a licensed real estate broker. And since 2005, I worked with the Department of Homeless Services, transitioning individuals from homeless shelters into permanent housing. Once the program ended in 2011, there was no homeless program, which the last one was called the Advantage Program. I wanted to do something to make a difference, because I still was getting calls from individuals who I had placed in apartments, but now they were losing their apartments and going back into the shelter system because most of them made $200 a week. And with the rental market in New York, there's no apartments unless you have a subsidy. Well, there's no subsidy. So I wanted to come up with something that I could do to still be able to help. So New Vision started as a Pennsylvania company, and I was working with the mental health in Pennsylvania. And I was a little reluctant to do it in New York because of the politics, what I thought was politics. And I didn't want to mesh the two businesses, the real estate business with the nonprofit. But I was able to use some of my contacts, go to some of the shelters that I had dealt with in the past, and I decided to rent a house and open it for men only because I only had men to help me out, and they say women is a little difficult, and I didn't want to have the problem with false allegations of men working and then they're saying something happened. So decided to work with the men, But then I realized that most of the men had been incarcerated. So, I was a little reluctant because of some of the crimes. And then I just decided to, you know what? You can't judge people by what has happened in the past. I have a past. We all have a past. And we've all sinned, and we probably continue to sin. We just didn't get caught. And some of us have done things that might have caused us to be incarcerated, but we didn't get caught. So what makes us any different from them? So I started New Vision Supportive Services in January of 2013. And I started out with 22 men. And the 22 men, I've helped 15 of them
Wow.
transition to getting education, whether it's CDL drivers, whatever it's KSAT, any type of, whatever they want to do, I assist them to do that. I've gotten 15 of them supportive housing.
Wow.
4 of them have gotten employment, and now they have their own jobs and their own apartments. I've reunified 2 with their families, whether their families have lived out of state. 2 of them went back to, one went to Kentucky and the other went to North Carolina. So we currently have 10 guys left. 4 of them are moving this week. And then I hope to be able to transition into the Bronx and open a women's house.
Wow.
So you do way more than just housing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Case
So-
management, I'm their case manager. I connect them with doctor's appointments. Whatever it is they need, I personally do it for them. Because we're nonprofit, 501c3, we have no funding. So all the money comes from their rental checks from HRA. We pay all the bills with that. Sometimes I try to take them out to shows, whenever, it's feasible.
Okay, so, and I met Wanda at Bedford Hills at their resource fair
Wow.
last May. And
And we sat next to each other.
we sat next to each other. I was running for mayor, and Wanda was like, "You running for mayor for real? Why?" And we talked about why I was running. It wasn't so much that I needed to be mayor, but I needed to affect change, and that's what we were trying to do is just make people hear that we can't let the status quo remain, because we're in problems. We're in a whole lot of problems, and even all the systems seem to be, what is the word?
Failing.
No, not failing. It seems that it's set up so that nobody understands it, and that's why it's failing, because we can't grasp what the true meaning is. And you were talking about that when you came
Yeah,
in, Joe.
absolutely. I was telling Hilda when I came to her studio this morning, not being from the Bronx, and it was just finding this where we are right now.
Situation.
It was convoluted. Just a maze, up the stairs, down the stairs, up a ramp, down the ramp, go up, go down. And I'm saying, this is crazy. And these are people, I'm hoping that they either go to school, work here or something, and no one knows. And this is how this whole reentry thing is. It's just a convoluted process where no one knows what's really, everything is, well, I do this and don't know about that. You do that, and no one's communicating. It's all convoluted, and it's the clients, the people that's paying the price, because they're caught up in this for whatever reason. I never judge. Like Wanda said, we all have pasts. Some got caught for whatever, and some didn't. But for whatever reason, we find ourselves in a system that's larger than us. No one wants to own it, however many profit from it. And it's just a mess. I guess the technical word or an academic word is convoluted. There's other street terms we could use, but it's just a maze. as in a rat trap or something, and no one knows how to get out once you get in. And I know with the reentry piece of it, it's difficult. And I commend you for what you're doing, a whole lot more than housing. And it is difficult. And I have a person I thought I was going to bring in today, but I didn't work out. One person in particular I'm thinking about, and how frustrating it is when people do return from prison and they can't find employment. And I'm telling her, look, brother, look, sister, there's people out there that have skills, every degree you can think of from schools, a good record, never been incarcerated, they're catching hell. So what can I tell you? Except, try, encouragement, try, hold on, just keep trying, it'll work out. But it's as if by design it's set up that once you have become incarcerated, the path to recovery, there's so many obstacles, many things we take for granted. I want to say tuition aid, but it's not that. It's you get money for school.
Financial aid.
Yeah, you're disqualified from a lot of things. You're like a pariah, a social outcast, and you have these people telling me, and I know they're being sincere. And I just did 20 years upstate. I don't want to go back, but what options do I have? And I have to eat. Well, and you mentioned money. Money is a big piece of this. I talked about no one owning the system, but many profiting from it. Now, what we have done at StrugCon so far, I have financed because it's a passion, it's a calling. So whatever work we've done, I've been the financer, and we're also 501c3 approved. But funding is tricky. You have to, sidebar, ask yourself, why is it that some organizations can get all the money they want, up to kazoo, and other organizations like Wanda over here, New Vision, we're financing ourselves or asking the clients to help support. We have to fix something's wrong. And I hope that as we're here talking today about reentry, housing, education, like with the bowling leagues and stuff, that I'm tired of talking, that's what I'm trying to say. And I'm trying not to get street.
Okay. Know that people actually are hearing us. I was at a roundtable meeting last week, and they were talking about there's a new movement upstate called Milk.
Okay.
So they're trying to, that the whole economy is the prison system, mostly upstate. So they're trying to encourage the farmers to do their cows. That's why they're calling it milk, and let's have some milk instead of prison. Yeah. And if they can bolster the economy by using the farms, because we need food too.
Yes.
Then we will less likely to warehouse our people, which is the free labor. Because remember, the 13th Amendment says they can be slaves because they've been convicted. And remember, there is a pipeline from the cradle to the prison. And if over 50% are Black, African American, and Latino, that's telling you that we have some serious issues that we really need to address. We really need to address them, and we need to come together. And everybody always says that, and we have not overcome. When was that song sung? I was a little kid, and "We Shall Overcome" was like the theme.
Yeah.
And we never overcoming because we scattered.
Isn't that the Black Anthem?
No, that's lift every voice and sing.
Yeah.
That's we're not lifting our voices and doing too much of anything.
Right.
We're kind of running in circles, and everybody is looking at the almighty dollar, and that's why I kind of have such good feelings about you guys, because we kind of finance our own program, so we know that what's in it for me is what's in what I'm getting in my heart, and you're not filling your pockets. But just think what we could do with our passions if we had some finances to really grow what we're doing, and not have and I didn't want the government involved with my programs, because they tend to want to fix the programs that are working. And I kept saying, I don't need you to fix it, I need you to fund it, because we need to expand it. and you don't have to nitpick and find problems with it. If I have a 20-year history, over 20 years, then and it's worked, we have a 99.99999 success rate, then what is there to be fixed?
Right.
And that tends to be what I think that the foundations are now realizing that perhaps maybe they need to stop holding on to the little people and letting us do our thing. So I don't know if I'm Pollyannic again, pie in the sky, hoping that perhaps within the next 5 years we can do more than just hope that things get better. Because I just spoke with someone who was incarcerated for 35 years, and he's saying I didn't do it. He's saying I didn't do it, and the problem is I kind of think they knew when they were going to let him out, but they didn't prepare him to be out.
Yeah.
So he has all these medical issues as well. He's diabetes, he has vision problems, he's kidney, and he came out with no Medicaid. So if you know you releasing, because it's not discharge, it's really, if you're releasing somebody, shouldn't there be like preparation, discharge planning way in advance so that when they hit, they don't have to wait 45 days for Medicaid. If you're a diabetic, you can't tell your sugar time.
Right, I can't do that.
So he's been in a hospital 4 times since he was released because he didn't have insulin. And that's just one person. How many people is that really happening to? Or they don't have someplace, they have someplace to go, like Katrina.
Yeah.
And then the real estate people ripped her off. So she's out in the street.
Right.
You know, so she's telling me, Miss Broady, I'm really trying not to regress. Because I met her on a visual video scan at Bedford Hills. She doesn't want to go back there. I don't want to regress, but this is really, really hard for me. This is really, really hard for me. And the thing that helped her was she had a network of people saying, try here, try there, try there. We can work with and finally she has a furnished room someplace.
Good.
But we don't know if that's
How long?
that she's going to be able to maintain. So she's not here today because she has to do WEP.
Right.
So she's saying if it was a real job, I would feel more comfortable doing that obligation. But she said they just kind of shuffle people from place to place just so that I could sign in, but I need to maintain my benefit until I get a real job. So it's ring around the rosy, and nobody is getting any posies.
I thought they were supposed to be giving them a release plan, and that's what transitional services. Transitional services is supposed to have them a temporary Medicaid card with a temporary number when they get out. That's what's supposed to happen.
It's not happening all the time. Let's just say that it's not. We can't say that it's prevalent that this particular person, but I've spoken to other people who don't have. They have ID, but that's not Medicaid. That's ID, so that you can go to the Medicaid office and apply for Medicaid.
No, I've gotten some that have the numbers. Because, well, if they call me from jail, from prison, and they have like a release date, I ask them,
Yeah.
do you have the Medicaid number? Because what is supposed to happen, each borough has a reentry task force. Parole, a couple of the workers are assigned to have a case conferencing 2 times a week. And they're supposed to have a service plan for each parolee. Let's say it's April now, they should be working on parolees that's coming out in August. But what I did see when I went to the one of the case conferences, they only give, if you don't show up, they only give to the people who show up. So unfortunately, a lot of them go to substance abuse program because that substance abuse treatment program has a representative there all the time.
Excuse me.
And they may have mental health issues,
Right.
but because there's no one at the meeting representing mental health, they send them to substance abuse program. So, they not getting treated. And that's what the people from parole do. They'll say, let's say the two of us came. I have a transitional house. He has whatever. We'll get all the people because we say we can take them all.
Right.
It's like no one's doing extra work to try to make sure that whatever the client needs is. I might be substance abuse and only substance abuse, but the client may have mental health issues. So why send him or her to a place that's only going to help with the substance abuse where primarily they may need mental health? And a lot of them fall through the cracks because of that too, because community supervision is not doing what they're supposed to do at these case conference meetings prior to the parolee getting released.
So they're supposed to meet twice?
They have a case conference in the Bronx, I can tell you, 2 times a week. 2 times a month, I'm sorry. And it is on link. Where is that? Oh.
I think in the...
And they sit around the round table and they have the files. And they say whatever it is, the history, and when they're supposed to be getting out. And they're supposed to send back a plan to the jail. But
And this starts 6 months before their discharge?
because when I went, I only went once because I don't have a place in the Bronx. So there was no, I just went to see what it was about because my house is in Brooklyn. I got that from the Bronx ReEntry task force that we went to.
That they never
Never sent us anything else, so now I'm
They don't wanna hear.
right, because I told them that they were sending emails about housing, and I told all my guys to go because it was about housing, and then after they filled out the application, an announcement was made saying, oh, if you have a criminal background, you're disqualified. So when I went to the meeting the next time, I said, well, you guys need to check this out. You're supposed to be the ReEntry task force, so I'm making the assumption that you're the ReEntry task force. Anything you send me, they're not going to say you're disqualified because of a criminal background. So I made us think about that, so you need to check that out. Because I made all my guys go. I said, if you don't have the money, one of y'all have car fare, I can give it back to them, go, fill out, because these are low-income apartments.
Right.
So it's always stacked up against them.
I think what Wanda was saying, that's part of this convoluted process. I think there's a big divide between what is supposed to happen and what actually happens. Then when it does happen, there's a lack of consistency. So it may happen, but you got lucky, like the lotto, you was in it and you win it, and I didn't. And so it's that inconsistency, and even with, I can think of people right now in my mind, some folks get out and they get what I call, they get lucky. And even in terms of employment, they have what they call a hookup. I mean, there were some brothers, so you make more money than I'm making. You was gone for 20 years, and you're back here, and I said, you doing better than I'm doing, financially.
Yes.
And then there's others who get out, and they just didn't have that kind of luck. So it does a lot on the psychological, and dealing with men particularly with your ego. You feel less than a man, and you're wondering how we were in the same jail cell, in the same prison, and this cat is out and he's making $70,000, $80,000 a year, and I can't get a minimum wage job. And how do you explain that? Because it does a lot to you as a person. And while I have the floor, you mentioned something about slavery earlier on, and there's a book out there, The New Jim Crow. This whole incarceration stuff is by Michelle Alexander or something. But the point I want to make about slavery, incarceration, the 13th Amendment, as you mentioned, I think about our ancestors back on the continent, back in Africa, or the place we call Africa, and I think about two might have went to get water for the village or whatever, and one came back. I think about children on the playground and maybe playing in the park or something. Some didn't come back. Going about your daily walks in life, in a group, someone didn't come back. So at home, there were empty places at the dinner table. You know, in their worships or whatever they did, in terms of religion, there was empty places in the pews. And so it is with us in what we call this new slavery, which is known as incarceration, mass incarceration. I think about the young brothers and sisters who may be hanging on the corner for whatever reason. I don't judge, but you're on the corner on a Friday night, someone didn't go back home. Something jumped off, it got popping, someone got locked up. You know, even the person just going to work, minding their business, someone got stopped and frisked. Things escalated. Someone didn't make it back home. So in all of our homes, you have empty places at your dinner table. You know, someone doesn't even know who their daddy is or who their mommy is. You know, at family affairs, family reunions, there's empty spaces, and it has become the norm. So just trying to visualize that when we say New World slavery, people think, well, you're not in chains, but it's actually worse, I think. And as Hilda mentioned with the 13th Amendment, we are relatively free except for incarceration. And it troubles me, Wanda. It pains me, Hilda. I don't have answers for people. It pains me that we are left at the community level to fix a problem that has national roots. I'm tired of the rat race, but I'm too far in it to get out now. That's just me by nature.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm tired. It's like you're telling me, Joe, I want you to keep this table dry of water, and I'm doing the best I can. I'm mopping up the water, but simultaneously, you have a big gallon pitcher. You just keep pouring it on, and I just wish that someone would say, this doesn't make any sense. To say, right, the jig is up.
That's us.
And I
That's
know.
what we're saying. That's what we're saying. But we're saying we're going to do something about it, and we're going to join together. Because we tend to join together, and then you get famous somehow.
Right.
People get, when the cameras come in, somehow the problem becomes diminished, and it's more about me profiling and looking good for the what do they call it? Photo op.
Right.
Photo op.
I don't want a photo op. I want operations that are gonna work. And in my shoes, it's really about not only recognizing the problem, and it's so deep, and that's why we've gone on for almost 40 minutes just stating the problem. But we're supposed to have solutions as well, or come up with viable solutions so that we could take it out there, so that the next person that you meet coming in is not feeling so downtrodden. You can see a glimmer of hope instead of the hopelessness and helplessness that we come across each day. I mean, I met a lady in the Bronx Court of Justice. Her son was incarcerated for 3 years. And I have been sending her job orders because she said I work for housing and I can give kids in the housing projects an opportunity. And I said, oh, great. And then she said, my son was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and now he has to do the time. Right. He has to do the time. And I said, well, when he gets out, let me know. Get in touch with me. And she got in touch with me last night, you know. And he's 21 years old. He has aspirations, but he said he thought that because he took the plea, and I have this problem with people taking the plea, because he's saying his friend got beat up and then he jumped in. So he took a plea, but he went to jail for 3 years. Yeah. And he had a job. He used to work for housing. And so now he can't have his job back because he's a convicted felon. And I'm going, because he took the plea. And his mother said, she felt not comfortable with him taking the plea, because if you're going to plead to a lesser charge, then maybe, but he did 3 years, so it couldn't have been that much less. But now he can't find a job, and he's been out since February. I know it's only April, but when you're 21 and you have been unemployed since February, it's a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know.
In terms of the plea, a wise man once told me, and I like to learn. He says, "Don't do pleas." What is it? Something ACDs, a conditional discharge. He says, take it to trial. And that's what is, if this system feeds on people, then don't make it easy. Take it to trial. He says, by doing that, you're going to shut the system down because it cannot handle the load that comes in. And in terms of the change that you were speaking about, I really want that. And I think that meanwhile, the Wandas, the Joes, the Hildas of the world, we keep doing what we're doing on this level. But I think we need, and that's the coalition you mentioned, something bigger that's really going for the addressing right to the problem itself. Still trying to help out people, because my business plan, and just hearing Wanda, I'm sure hers is similar. My business plan, which is simply to put myself out of business. You know, to the fact that there's no more clients, then you move on to something else. And that's I'm talking from my heart now. And that's the business model, to put yourself out of business. And the whole thing, where the frustration comes from, when in terms of reentry, prison industrial complex, is it feeds on people. So people say they want solutions, but they really don't, because they want to pay
The money.
pay their mortgage. It almost slipped out because I get passionate. They want to pay. They're living off this. They're feeding off of this.
Homelessness is a
It's
business.
a business.
Homelessness is a business. Department of Homeless Services is a business. Because it's just a vicious cycle. You know, they come up with programs, they make programs that you've never been homeless before.
Right.
You're not taking into consideration the market rent. You coming up with $925 for a family of 4. Where can you get a 2-bedroom for $925? In what borough?
In Ellenville,
You know, what borough? Right.
no borough.
But
None.
we're talking about New York City,
None.
so it's only confined to the 5 boroughs. So it's a business.
It is a business, and yet again, like chattel slavery, it's a business, and we have to start making the connections and just get fed up and say, I've had enough. And it gets a little, like Hilda mentioned earlier about when you're talking about funding now, particularly with the government grants and things of that nature. When the money comes in, there's so many guidelines and so many, it gets real tricky sometimes. And well, in my work at STRUGG, we partner with a lot of other grassroots organizations, some quite radical. And among the people, the consensus is when you get money, meaning when government gives you money that you've sold out, you can't be true to the cause. It gets a little, you have to figure out how to maneuver through it and still be true to yourself. Right. But people, the more radical people believe in, we don't want it, but you need it.
You need it.
But it gets a little tricky, and staying true to your cause, true to your community, and also, just a word that when it comes to grant, and I know I'm going blank right now, the technical term, but staying within those guidelines. But it's a cycle, and I'm hoping that we are able to break the cycle. And we also we have done work with gangs. You know, the gangs in New York. Matter of fact, we had what we called a gang leadership conference a few years ago now, and we actually had gang members that showed up. It was beautiful, a room full of men. And when we put this call out, we had a few women, but mostly men. And when the call went out, we were of the mindset that the people we were trying to help, they did not view government as a friend. So this was strictly grassroots. No politicians were invited. No police departments were invited, which is out of the norm. So matter of fact, it was misconstrued, our intentions. And some actually went on to believe that we were promoting gangs, and the officials, that is. And they all they had to do was read the flyer, but they just saw the title. But the people showed up, and even some religious organizations jumped on board. Matter of fact, one man in particular from the Nation of Islam, he called my partner that day, and matter of fact, he called 9 times in one day and left 7 messages. I think he was motivated. But
yes.
this is a community, the people, saying, I like what we're seeing. This is what we're talking about. And they did come out. The consensus that day was it all came down to economics. If I'm in a gang or if I'm slinging the hash or selling drugs, whatever I'm doing, you can't ask me to stop doing this unless you can replace it with something else. And I got to eat. Now, I don't particularly agree with that. I believe that we do have choices, but that was the consensus. I was outnumbered, and if everybody's saying it, I guess it might be some truth to it. But that's that choice element I started talking about earlier. I understand what it means to be by design, but at the end of the day, we all have an intellect within us, and we choose. I don't have any money right now. Do I find another way, or do I just simply knock Wanda over the head and take her money? We have a choice. So I want to make that clear. I'm not making excuses for people, but I think what I think is egregious, I think is sinful, some of the things, making people choose from things that shouldn't be choices. Now, that's the big ticket item here again. I understand I have a choice to make, but the options, don't even put them in front of me. It's like you have a child and you say, well, little Joe, don't eat the chocolate chip cookies. But all you have in front of me is chocolate chip cookies. What the hell am I going to eat?
Right.
So big ticket items, and that's a little bit beyond STRUGG as an organization, but me as the founder of the organization, me as an active person in the community, because we actually do street patrols out there. Shout out to Brother Timothy Ford and Africans Helping Africans Coalition. We're out there in the neighborhoods where police officers don't want to go, trying to talk with young people, trying to prevent crime and show people there are other options. But I lost my train of thought, but it'll come back to me.
That's why we want to bring a different approach into it.
Yeah.
Because it is intergenerational, and there are opportunities in the sport of bowling that seem to be unheard of in our community, or people are not aware of it.
Yeah.
It's like with my kids, the kids that they're all my children, but they're trained coaches, so they didn't have to worry about summer youth employment or after school employment because they're certified coaches. So it's not only I can go and throw the ball and get my anger out, but I can make some money, because you said you have to give them an option.
Give them an option.
Okay, because they've taken away so much from the school system, because if you don't have after school, and they've taken away some schools don't even have gym, I heard. So there's no way to get off that energy, and there's, so if you're setting them up to fail from the school point of view, and bowling is saying, well, we offer more scholarships than all the other sports put together, and we'll give them an opportunity to do what they need to be done, and still be exposed to the entire community, because we're intergenerational, because we go from, my youngest now is 4, and my oldest is 79. So that and it doesn't only have to be bowling. Bowling just happens to be my passion because I know the most about it. I am a certified bronze level coach, and we have the largest number of certified Olympic coaches in one program in the world. So that I know that more. I know most about that, but it's the commitment that the people who are involved in the sport have. If we could just take a little bit of that commitment for the rest of our community, then they too. I mean, I've been coaching the kids since 1988, and I've only had one kid get arrested, and he did not go to jail.
Right.
And I only had one kid drop out of high school. Okay, and he works at McDonald's, and I'm not happy about that, but everybody has choices, and that was his choice. So we can look at it negative, or we can look at it positive. He's not knocking anybody in the heads.
Right.
He's working.
He's working.
It's working.
You know, I just think that he was a bright guy, and he could have done more.
He still has the chance to do more.
You mentioned some nice, powerful stuff. The bowling as an alternative to becoming a certified coach, and you mentioned the young man that's working at McDonald's, and I want to clear this up right now because I know someone's listening or will listen to this and say, "Well, Joe, I don't agree with you." There are jobs out there, and yeah, there's always jobs. You know, it's a constant flow. Get a job, lose a job, get a job. But with these young people, and some will tell you, I made $2,000 a day, and now you want me to work for $200 a week? From a business plan, they're correct. I'm not saying how they made it, but I made $2,000 a day. And you're telling me to walk the straight and narrow, young man, young woman, go out there and, get a law-abiding, honest job, and you're making $150, $200 a week. How do you compete? We are a materialistic society.
But there are other opportunities as well, like the Sandhog Union.
Right.
They make
$60 an hour or more.
And but I mean, I've had people tell me, but I don't want to work underground. So I said, and they were just getting they were re-entering. So I said, so when you were in the cell, was it like above ground and you had a window? I don't know, because I've never. I said, and at least at the end of the day, you get to go home, and they're gonna pay you more than whatever you got when you were in prison. Make yourself aware of what's available, and you can, and they're gonna pay for your training.
Right.
And they're not saying we don't want people who are incarcerated. There are programs out there, and I want to get to that. There are programs like the minority workers. That's an act. So 10% of all this development and all, it's supposed to be minority people.
Wow.
And they've said that we're not applying. Okay, we're not applying. With the Sandhog Union, I gave so many people the application that they took it offline. But I saved it on my desktop. Because you're not going to do that. And they right here on Katona Avenue. The training is in Arizona.
Okay.
But they send you. But CSX trains their people.
Right.
But you have to be willing to leave your neighborhood. And our mindset is, I'm not going to leave what's familiar.
Yeah.
And we have to really talk about what's really in the mindset of the people who are kind of, I think they're gullible. I'm ready, and usually, if you don't know something, you have a fear, and it's getting our people to overcome the fear of change and different, not even change. It's a different environment, and get them to have the self-worth to say, I'm worth the risk. I'm willing to take the risk, and I'm worth it. And guess what? If it doesn't work out, home is still there, or I can try something else.
Yeah.
My clients had plan A, plan B, and plan C. Because it's got to be a segue. People do not like going back to the drawing board. It really pisses our people off. Now I got to start all over. I knew it wasn't going to work out. Why did I waste time? Come on, you know I'm right. and how we gonna make this so that this you didn't spend, and I try to get the negative out. You didn't spend your time unwisely because I know you learned something. Okay, now where can we put that so that it's gonna work toward your plan B? Because your plan B is already written, because you don't walk out of my office without A, B, and C.
Right.
And it's got to be an easy segue. And how do we make that happen? How do we make that happen?
That's the question?
Yeah, how do we make that happen so that I don't want to be threatening.
Right.
And I don't want to seem callous, but we have to be real too.
Well, you know, Hilda, and I'll say this with almost sorrow. At large, we're in a war. Matter of fact, I think a lot of this, what we're trying to clean up now, stemmed from the what was dubbed the war on drugs. We are in a war, and when there is a war, there's always casualties, and we're going to lose a lot of people. I know we should save those whom we can, and I put a particular focus on young people. But we're gonna really lose a lot of people. That may be grim, but it's a reality, and it doesn't mean we shouldn't try to do whatever we do, but just realize that I don't want to say you. Well, I guess I should say you won't get them all. So you catch as many as you can catch, and my part of my method, and I guess maybe we'll have a part two to this.
Yes, we are.
Because a large part of my work has been with the young people. And even with the young people, you're going to still lose some of them, but trying to just get them young. Because once you're at a certain age, it's extremely difficult with the choices, helping people make better choices, helping them understand. And I'm always saying by design, and this is what that actually means. But you don't have to fall into it. Matter of fact, if you just saw the first 20 people in your family fall into this pit, why would you go the same direction? It's illogical to me, but everybody is different.
So our task is to let them see as early as possible what the options are, so that they don't have to follow. They don't have to go that road, and that's where we tend to let Johnny fly. And then Johnny realizes he can't fly before we're trying to pick him up, instead of at least trying to help him build an airplane so he can fly.
In a quick word, and I've done almost 4 years of research on this, and more precisely than just young, the magic age is 7. If you don't catch him by 7, it's hard to catch him. Matter of fact, anyone at this table, if you tell me what you're doing now, I'll tell you what you did at age 7. Very important. So the first 7 years, age 7, remember nothing else from this crazy Joe STRUGG. If you have young people in your lives, catch them before age 7. Because at age 7, that pretty much, the path of their life is pretty much set. And every 7 years following that, it'll manifest itself. I mentioned gangs, what's the target age with the gangs? People, teenagers, 13, 14. 7.
Okay, so this has been a great first segment, and we are not going to stop. We're going to move on to segment 2. So I want you to stay tuned and watch our next show, because we're not only going to keep discussing what the problems are, but really demonstrate the viable solutions. And we're going to actually have someone here who has re-entered and is on a new path, and we're gonna make some differences. It's good. What is it? A different approach to serving the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do. A different approach to serving the world. Because if we can fix our communities, the world has got to be better.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yep.
Hands up. I agree.
Yes,
All right.
just the beginning. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for having me.
It's going to be good. It's gonna
And
be
thank you
good.
for having me also.
McGruff here. I want you to learn a song that tells people to say no to drugs. Users are losers and losers are users. So don't use drugs. Don't use drugs. Winners don't use and users don't win. So don't use drugs. Don't use drugs. If you know a user even part of the time, tell them to quit, take a bite out of crime. Users are losers and losers are users. So don't use drugs. Don't use drugs. Okay, everybody. If you know a user even part of the time, tell them to quit, take a bite out of crime. Users are losers and losers are users. So don't use drugs. Don't use drugs. Nice going. Now teach it to your mom and dad and brothers and sisters and friends to help take a bite out of